It's good to see you guys. Um, Good to be back in Waco. So just the review of the game was humbling, but at the same time, just a great learning experience. Lot to lot to be improved upon. I think always coming into those situations, just real honest about what your motivations are, getting into a problem, not bringing your ego into it, and kind of, how hard is it to have an honest conversation? I think those are things that are really the task within the task for us in terms of where everything's at, staff to staff, staff to players, players to staff. And so we're really looking at that as an opportunity to bring this team closer and to grow as a team. A lot of looking back at all of it, a lot of praise and recognition to BYU. I thought they played hard. I thought the environment was a good one. There was a home field advantage there, and I thought collectively for us, we let the outside affect the inside. And, with that, though, still continuing to battle and to bring it into the late stages of the game like we did, I think is a credit to the team. And like I said Saturday night, I think it's very difficult to be in a game where, with the ups and downs and all of it, haven't been in a game where it was, 2 field goals from however many yards out were missed. And so, to be in a game where we're still kind of battling and all of that takes a lot to get to that point. And so it's one thing to be at that prior to a loss. It's another to address, the shortcomings and the issues and to get better as a team, but then still bring that belief and still grow that belief or that connection or that, and so that's the challenge that we got. With that, take any questions you guys have.
Dave, after the game, you mentioned the discipline issue as far as the penalties and all that. In practice, film sessions this week, how do you reinforce improving that?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we're 126th, if I'm not mistaken, and there's 130 teams, and so it's funny that last year's BYU game we had no penalties, but that was after, I think, being 126th again. I was just talking with one of our academic people and about a sophomore now that was a freshman last year, and he's playing now in the rotation and everything. And he commented, and our academic person was in the room when he was commenting to another younger person and was saying, well, I wasn't playing last year and I'd be in meetings and I wouldn't really pay attention because it wasn't anything to do with me. And as unfortunate as that is, that makes a lot of sense. I think human nature is that way, right? It is always kind of me first, me over everything. Please, let's talk about me. Can I get a little bit more me? And I think especially from a young person perspective, makes a lot of sense. But I think it also adds to the circumstances that we're in now, because we're kind of doing it all over again, of learning, the rules of the game, so to speak. And so, we talk about penalties every day, and we show examples and all of it. And, I think we're just going to have to double down on that. And then I think it really gets to a part, really, to be honest, where we have to be able to wake up and, that when we're talking about it to you, And so I think sometimes that learning, unfortunately, takes hard lessons to learn that. And we're not at the point yet to where it does not. And so it's still something to aspire to there.
Dave, with a third of those penalties being false starts, do you feel like the team was adequately prepared for that atmosphere, or is there no way to simulate that?
It's a good question. We would have from the very beginning of camp a cadence that was really kind of designed for that environment, and we would have sound and practice sessions and noise and all of it, and I think that I can remember being in the huddle of our offense on the sideline. I can remember being on the sideline, the huddle of our team, special teams, and then the huddle of our defense, and just seeing real big eyes, And so anytime you see the big eyes, that generally tells the story. That's the forewarning of those things. And so, we could have done it more. I think the things that really have to transpire is that they're enough, and that they're there to play in those environments and to really succeed in those environments is part of it. And so I think moving forward we'll be better equipped. I think it probably takes the real thing to get the message all the way across.
Dave, you guys rushed the ball 52 times against BYU, which I looked it up. It was most for Baylor since 2019. Obviously, that's a lot of times in a game. Going into the game, was that the game plan? Was that trying to create an identity, or was that just sort of based on what BYU was showing you guys?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think it probably was a bit of everything you said there. I think there was some uncertainty and some some timidness in the throw game, both on the throwing and the receiving and the blocking part of it. And so I think while that was being addressed and coached, and I'm sure guys were, learning and trying to apply as the game went on, I just think that, it's hard to explain. I think when you're in it, you just have a feeling that, yeah, I'm saying it and they're nodding their head, but we ain't getting it, man. We ain't getting it. So that was the feeling. And it felt, that the run game was there. And, it's kind of, I think it really boils down to this. That's where the experience is. That's where the guys have been in those environments before. And those are the guys that have kind of played through all of that. We talked about the freshman that became a sophomore that really never listened and never applied. Those guys have been in it and have applied. And so you're really kind of leaning on them. I don't think that was the decision in the moment was that, but it just felt that way. And, I think a couple of the runs that were 5 or 6, possibly could have been more. And we kept trying to find that one big run to kind of propel us to the other side of it, and never quite got there.
Coach, do you have an update on Tay and whether he'll be available this weekend?
It's questionable right now. I think he's still getting looked at. And so, as of this morning, it's still up in the air.
You kind of talked about players being in their heads. Blake might have been one of those guys that just couldn't find it. Talk about, especially in those overtime periods, and kind of what was going through his head. Did you say anything to him or anything after the game to kind of calm him down?
Well, I appreciate the question. I think, I look at all of it as far as, you try to prepare folks as best you can. And, I just look at, for as young as we are, should I have made a more point of, showing up and the courage that it takes to show up. I think a lot of my language going into the game was, hey, this is going to be a fight, and prepare yourself for back when I was growing up, it was 15 rounds for a 15-round fight, and what that entails, and taking a hit and getting back up and that, and whether or not that was the right thing, whether or not that's the level of maturity that we're at or not. And so, a lot of what we're doing right now is difficult to talk about because everyone has a part in it. It's not just this guy's deal or Blake's deal or that guy's deal. It's all of our deals, And I look at myself in terms of, doing better with my part of the deal, So I think early in the game you could sense the big eyes, and they could feel that that crowd and that environment. And I think when you let outside stuff get in the inside, there's things that you can't control that are kind of pulling the levers and pushing the buttons, and it's hard to kind of get control of that again. And I think we're all trying, and I think Grammy was trying with his play calls and all of it to try to get it right. And I go back again to just the competitiveness and the heart of the team, because in a lot of ways, and this is giving full credit to BYU and what they're doing, but I mean we were not, we were not at our best, right? Still trying to duke it out, and so I give a lot of credit to the guys for that. And I look at all of the off-season kind of playing into that. Now that we have to talk about, so there's some particular players where here's a clip in practice if we did it right. Here's a clip in the game where this is not right. Here's a clip in practice. Here's a clip in the game. And so like stuff like that's hard to talk about. I think it has to be talked about, and it can't be, from the coach's view, it can't be brought with any ego or any kind of flex. It has to be from a real genuine, a genuine humbleness and a genuine willingness to try to teach. And so I think if it's brought that way, then I think the player can see that, hey, this person's for me. This person's not trying to blame or shame or any of this. And then I can really say, hey, you know what? This might have been a little big for me, but I'm better because of it now. And it'd be great if we can get to that part. That's the challenge. I'm just being on a bunch of teams, that generally doesn't happen. That generally doesn't happen. A lot of times the ego kind of takes control, and you're in a thing, and you're causing other things, So we're trying not to do that.
Dave, when you look at the film, was their coverage in the back end just that good? I mean, I think your longest pass play was 19 yards, and it seemed like the sacks were coverage sacks.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I would agree. With the sacks, I think we got to do a better job of getting rid of it. A lot of them were out of the pocket sacks, and so I think that has been talked about and recognized, and we're going to have to apply that, moving forward. But I think the routes and the discipline to the details of the routes, and the speed in which we're running the routes, and all of it is a lot of room for improvement. I think from where we were game one in terms of that environment and the execution to where we were game two in this particular environment, and how that affected the execution is something that we have to clearly see and agree on, so that we can move forward and talk about real stuff. And so, I think it's a very, very talented group, and it's a group that wants to establish itself and do well and kind of be, everyone in there wants to be that guy, and I want that so desperately for them. But this is all part of it, and so. We talked about prior to the game about just saying yes to things, even the things that are embarrassing or hurtful, or I think if you say yes to it, really what you're doing is you're getting your ego out of it, so you can really see the you're taking the emotion out of it, so you can see the realness in it. And like I say, very hard to do. And I think that room in particular, there's other rooms too, but they have to do that, and so we're aiming to get that done.
Coach, on Saturday you talked about that this game felt like the game in Stillwater last year.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the guys said that was sort of a turning point, and they used that as a real learning experience. How do you make this loss, be that same way, and they can really learn from it?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it's all very difficult, I think, because I think we showed that game and talked about that game on was it Friday, or I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday prior to this game we just played, and talked about how pressure can create abnormal behavior, and and how you have to keep your focus on the focus, otherwise, kind of what we talked about, other things can push buttons on you. And so I feel like some of that stuff, I think it's human nature to kind of hear it but not really understand it. And I feel like sometimes it takes hurt and suffering to kind of get the understanding to kind of sink in or to seep in. And if there's positives off of this, it's that real true learning can occur. And I'm hopeful that all the way across there's no flexing on any of it for points or ego validation, and we can all kind of get better from it, and I think that was able to happen last year with last year's group. We've got a way different group this year. And so whether or not that happens this year, I think really goes to the connection that the team has, the connection that the coaches and the team has, and their ability to trust each other. And so that will be tested, yeah.
Dave,
do you have
Devin
update
Neal
on-
seems to have gotten off to a good start here. What do you like about his safety play?
He is smart. He is he's instinctive. I think he hedges his bets. I think there's good athleticism in him. I think there's but what aids with all of that is his predictive knowledge. He's able to see this down and distance, this formation, this split, this receiver, this tight end, this back equals this play. And he's playing a couple steps ahead, And so just very cool with just his ability to kind of grasp information and then apply it. I think we've got a few guys that can just teach the whole thing. He's one of them. So it's pretty cool to see. I'm excited for his progress.
Dave, is there a update on Monterey, and was his importance to your offense reemphasized in that second half?
He's in the same boat as Tay, and so we're waiting to hear back on kind of how that transpires. We're hoping for the best and for all of it on Saturday. I think for him, his role in our fly sweep game, our option route game, kind of our vertical game, it's been a big one. I think Jordan Neighbors is kind of in that role as well. We're hoping to get Jordan back for Saturday too, and so we've got to get over the injury bug that we got right there. In the meantime, Gavin coming in and really making a critical catch and doing well with blocking, and all of it was really good to see. I think he continues to impress and will continue to push for more and more playing time. I'm proud of his effort.
One more question related to the running game. So, can't tell you exactly when, but sometime in the second half, you guys had the ball, ran it first down, ran it second down, have like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. And on the broadcast, I'm watching from here, Robert Griffin says, "Oh, they're definitely passing it here," and you guys ran it again and picked up the first down. obviously RG3 knows more about football than I do, but my question is this: isn't a lot of times that situation, 3rd and short, 3rd and manageable, almost the best time to run it, just because they have to respect the pass? I mean,
Yeah, there was a fair amount of, and we've been operating this way, and BYU does too, and they do a really good job of it, of, 4th down, going for it and all of it. And so, if it's 1st and 10, right, you start with that for sure. But then there's the number of, hey, we've got to get to 3rd and whatever that number is, to go for it on 4th down. Right, and the analytics helps with that, and that's still a decision that there was one decision like that where we punted it in this game. It was at the end of the game, and they ended up driving it and missing the field goal at the end off of the punt, but it was recommended to go, and we didn't go on that time. So you still have a decision to make, but if it is a 3rd and say it's a 3rd and 5 or a 3rd and 6 that says go, and it's 3rd and 3, that gives you the ability to run it because it's 3rd down, but it's really 2nd, so you have another down. And so a lot of it is that.
Coach, in terms of, off of Bryce's question a little bit, Blake went 5 for 5 on that touchdown drive, and I think you guys only threw the ball 4 more times after that. In terms of maybe a momentum, do you think that killed his momentum and his confidence and kind of put a little rust on it? Because it looked like, especially on that last throw, it looked like a guy who maybe hadn't thrown the ball a lot down the stretch.
No, I appreciate the question. I think some of the, what the run game can do is it can settle things for the throw game and clear up, windows and all of it. And so, I give you the example of the very first play of the game was a glance to our ex-receiver, I want to say. And, BYU came out, and they were in 3-week, I want to say, and the safety off the run action, it was an RPO, off the run action, start getting depth quick and was in the window, and I don't think Blake saw him. And it was incomplete. And I think it was in the hands of, I think it went to Seth, so it probably was our Z. And it went to the hands of the Z and was kind of overthrown, and thankfully so, because the safety was in the window. And there was no real bite of the run. There was just kind of a retreat to be in the window. Now, that window is something that we've taken advantage of throughout, the last year and however many games. And so, there is some opponent scout that goes into all of that, but there wasn't a bite on the run. And so when you can run it and be effective with it, and, I think with all of it, we would have liked to have been more effective than we were. But then you can get those windows bigger with safeties coming down, and now you've got that glance that you want, right, or the slant or whatever you want to call it. And so I think it started from that piece. I think, the aid in some of that was to kind of, hey, there's some jumpiness here at this position. There's some jumpiness at that position. There's some inconsistency at this position. All of them are kind of are populated by young guys, right? And so let's settle some of that down. Let's lean on some of the veteran guys. I think it was also aided by that too.
Tough to lose Doyle late in the game. Going into this week, prep for that position as that halves get split like that.
Yeah. I think I might have mentioned it Saturday night. I think Dylan's got a reputation where I think they, when that happened, they go, "Is he okay?" Because I know Dylan's kind of a great, so they're all making judgments on the character. I thought was pretty cool. And so I think, so he's kind of heartbroken about it. And it's one of those things to where, you slow it down. You can see him leave his feet. You can see the launch and all of it. I think it's hard when a guy's up high and he's coming down low. I think it's just always going to work out that way. And I think it's for the best because you want to keep people safe that are unprotected. And so I think it's just one of those things, unfortunately, for us, And I think it gives an opportunity for some of our younger guys to be able to step up. I thought, The run game, when Dylan was in there, was one thing. When he wasn't in there, I think it was another thing. I think we lost a notch or two. And so I think, the ability for our guys to take this week and really kind of get better as a team, with just the increased depth that we can create with all of this, is a good thing.
Coach, what are you wanting to see this week that will make you feel confident that they've learned the lessons that you've wanted them to take away from this loss?
Well, no, I appreciate that question. I think we need great energy. We need great execution. There's a quote we used from Bruce Springsteen. We had to talk about the boss some, because I think we had one guy that knew who he was, and so. But there was a quote that he had about how he doesn't see concerts as just a routine. He sees it as a renewal, and he talks about how he's playing Born to Run however many times, but it ain't like that. Each time is its new time, because there's someone bringing somebody for the first time to listen to him, and it's like they're going to see the boss, dude, and they're going to be there, and that's going to be their thing. And it's like you never know whose first time it is. You never know the impact that you make. And I think it's the same way with practice. You could look at it as it's a Monday thing, or here's another Tuesday. But, we just talked about the linebacker position, is that everyone needs to be going hard on that Tuesday to give that linebacker that's playing now, that's a starter now, the best look and the best, view, so that he can be at his best come Saturday. And so it's a renewal every time. So you'd like to see that. And I think you'd like to be able to see, in the heat of the moment, and when we create, pressure and competitiveness in practice, you like to see an attempt at discipline, right, where it's not just the nodding of the head and all of it, but the application of it, and see if that can pass over to Saturday.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you, guys.